Hello and welcome to our kitchen table. I am sitting here with my wife, your therapist, and today we're going to be talking about how to make friends if you're autistic. If you have autism in your brain, your brain has gathered autism and just like, this is my autism, and your brain's like, got it, and it's holding on to it, the autism.
The clinical description of autism.
If that's you, then you probably maybe have a tough time making friends. And your therapist is autistic. I'm an autistic whisperer, autism whisperer. And we're here to talk about different tips and tricks on how you can make meaningful friendships in your life.
And pitfalls to avoid.
And pitfalls, yeah. Of course, this is all in the theme of the year of building community. And some of y'all might have forgotten that this is a neurodivergent therapy podcast.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about that in a while.
I'm two neurodivergent people.
Yeah, I have ADHD.
And I'm autistic.
Your brain's got all that autism that's just gathered up.
It's been storing autism for the winter.
Yeah.
Winter's still on its way.
Winter's always coming.
Winter's always coming.
So as always, my name is Price, and I married your therapist.
I'm Ash, and I'm your therapist. Let's get started.
So, Ash, this is a recurring topic for some of your clients?
Yes. In fact, talking about how to make friends, I'm worried that what's going to happen is that if any clients are listening to the podcast, they're going to be like, oh my God, Ash is talking about me and the very specific thing I talked about this week, because I have this conversation every week, all of the time.
You're constantly revisiting this
topic. I think a lot of people are asking the same questions on this. So you brought it up, and at first I did my autism thing where I was like, I don't know, I haven't thought it through yet. And also, I never want to talk about somebody's specific thing. And I'm like, it's going to feel personal. But this is what I hear again and again, autistic people talking about. I have struggled with friendship throughout my life.
Struggled how?
I haven't had a lot of friends, or I've struggled with like being in a friend group and feeling on the outside of it. At different points, other people worrying about me not having a lot of friends and me not feeling worried about it at all. What?
What does that mean? Have I worried about you not having enough
friends? You specifically worrying about me not having enough friends.
Get out there, champ. You're great. They'll love you.
I'm maxed out. I have cats. And it's a huge energy expenditure, I think, to go like meet new people and to develop friendship and to be vulnerable and all of those things. So it's a question that comes up a lot, and a lot of my autistic clients ask the same sorts of questions about friendship.
Do you feel like your autistic clients are lonely then?
A lot of them are lonely. I have two different conversations maybe about friendship. One is a lot of loneliness or a lot of past hurt with friendships, but still wanting friendships. And one is autistic folks who are like, confession, I don't have a lot of friends and I don't really want friends. Are you going to make me go get friends? And my response to that is no. What I do tend to see in those folks, I don't think this is a hard and fast rule, but it's kind of a season of life thing. Often 6 months later, that person is like, hey, I kind of would like to make some friends. Could I do that? Or, hey, I started making a friend randomly. Help me with how this is going. So, yeah.
So what is it about autistic folks that makes this such a recurring topic? Like, what's the common denominator? Why are we having this episode in the first place?
A couple different things. I think it's a common trait of autism to have a persistent feeling of being on the outside of friendships. Like maybe I even have people in my life and I just don't feel like I fit in. I don't know if I fit in, and I don't even know how to tell. A lot of maybe abuse in the past from people where they felt taken advantage of, or people they thought were their friends weren't really their friends. And another thing is, I think a lot of relationships in our life have really clearly defined rules and boundaries for them. Like I know who my parents are. I know more clearly who my siblings are. I don't know how to identify like what a friend is supposed to be and how that is.
You're having trouble identifying what a friend is.
Yeah.
And that's consistent for for autistic folks?
Yeah, I hear that a lot. Like, okay, I'm lonely, but what is a friend? What am I supposed to expect of my friends?
That's kind of like a huge question.
Yeah.
We were talking about this a little bit right before sitting down, and
Well, the other thing I wanted to say about that is there's a script for other things as well. So there's also a way to tell if I'm dating somebody. And it can be a lot harder to tell, am I in a friendship with somebody?
wait. You can tell, but that's important that they can tell that they're dating you as well, right? They know who you are. They know they hang out with you.
I was just going through an autism assessment today with somebody, and one of the things on the autism assessment is like, can you tell if somebody's flirting with you? And consistently, the autistic answer is no. How do you tell that?
What does that mean?
But yeah, I think the biggest question is what is friendship? Who is a friend? So, to my non-autistic spouse, what's a friend, Price?
That's like, that is a tough question, right? That's a huge question because friendships are as unique as the people that are in the friendship, right?
Yeah.
For as many people as there are, there's as many different ways to be someone's friend. Mm-hmm. And I've certainly experienced like a lot of friendships that were very different, like across a whole smorgasbord of like friendships. And we talked last week about like friendships at work. That's very different than like people you came up with, and that's very different than like people you're currently going to school with, and that's very different than like your Discord buddies.
Yep.
I got invited to a Discord server recently, and it is like just a bunch of like straight white guys, and it is the gayest fucking place on the internet. I swear to God, these dudes are obsessed with joking about like having sex with each other, but they're all like super homophobic. It's not the place for me.
It's not the place for you.
I've just been watching it, kind of like, crikey, look at them go. Like, I haven't really been participating. I've sent like 2 messages there, just like introducing myself, and then they're all like doing their thing. It's just like insane what these grown ass men will say in their little safe spaces, you know?
Yeah. Startling. Alarming. Disturbing.
Yeah. No, maybe not the place for me. I have a unique relationship in my life, though. I know somebody that I still call my best friend, and we've been very close since we were 3 years old. So I asked for his permission, but I thought that who better to answer the question of like what is a friend than somebody who actually has been a friend to me effectively my entire life. So let's give Chris a call. Let's see what he has to say.
Price's best friend.
How embarrassing would it be if he didn't answer? Oh.
This is Chris.
What the fuck? This is Chris. What's up, dude?
Who's this?
Oh, I'm sitting here with Ash. We're recording the podcast. We talked about this?
You gotta stop. You gotta stop calling me. I'm tired of changing my fucking phone number.
Wait, hold.
Like, it's constant, okay? This is essentially harassment at this point, and I'm done with it, dude. I'm calling the cops if you call me again, all right? Lose the number.
Chris, we've been friends for... Oh my God, he hung up. All right, well, maybe we should be... maybe we should hear what you have to say.
Do you have some questions about what friendship is?
Yeah, what is friendship, man? I don't fucking know, man.
Well, I think maybe it's time to talk about reciprocity in friendship and how there should be a give and take. And the give and take is not needing a new phone number every
Yeah, in all seriousness, I think that friendship is like, to me, is a relationship that you have with another human being that is not sexual. But there are a lot of people who would strongly disagree with that and have a good argument for it. But for me, it's like, if there's sex involved, then it's more than a friendship. And I think a lot of people can say you could be friends with benefits, and I think that that's what saying we're having sex, but we're not in a relationship, more than you're saying we are friends and having sex in addition to it. But
I thought we were friends, Bryce. Are we not friends?
Wait, are we having sex?
Oh my God, don't tell anybody.
Hold up. We're admitting that live? No, again, I don't really feel like getting into the semantics of it, but I just generally think I generally think platonic, a platonic relationship with another human being where there's amicable feelings on both sides is like a good starting point for like what a friendship is. Yeah. And that's one of the most generic things I've ever said out loud in my entire life. Like that really doesn't mean anything. So I'd love to like talk about what friendship is and like what you advise your clients when they ask you these sorts of questions.
Yeah. Well, I think I jump right into, exactly where you started with this, which is there are as many ways to be friends as there are people who could be friends. Like I think friendship can look quite different. And so I think that conversation needs to start with, what am I looking for in a friendship?
Oh, good. Yeah.
What do I specifically want? Because it's going to be a lot easier to recognize out in the wild if you have an idea of what your needs are in your life. I think it's fair. My best friend, I was thinking as you were calling Chris, my best friend, if I called her right now, like she won't pick up because she's busy, and I usually miss her phone calls when she calls because she rarely calls at a time that works for me. And we talk every couple of months.
Yeah.
But when we do get to catch up, there's that shared like knowing and understanding of one another. And in this particular friendship, there's a lot of history there. And there's something really beautiful about, again, we've talked about like a witness to your life, about somebody who's seen you through so many different stages of life. I think you can have friendships where you talk about really deep and meaningful things, and you can have friendships where like you hardly talk at all, but you do a shared activity together that you both enjoy. And so I think it's easier to start the I'm looking for a friend, what do I do conversation with, what do you want? Are you wanting to try something new and you like somebody to try that experience out with? Do you want somebody who really like hears your deepest, darkest secrets and is like knows you in that way? Like what is it that you're looking for?
I think because I have a lot of thoughts in my head, and the first one is that like friendships are somewhat transactional, right? I am going to provide value into your life, and you are going to provide value into mine, and there's some equality there of like what we're doing for one another as human beings. But that requires you kind of know what you want to receive from a friend, but you should also have an understanding of what you're ready to give to a friend.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then you're looking to find people who are also looking for similar things, looking to give what you need and to receive what you can give. And so I think it's like if you take a step back even from that concept and like let's just remind ourselves that like building friendship, like actual friendship, is a beautiful thing. And it provides so much value into your life to have people who care about you. And it also, I think, is equally important to remember that it provides tremendous value to care for people. Especially when those people care for you in return.
Yeah.
And that even when friendships are difficult, and even when there's challenge, as if there's that mutual respect and that equilibrium, that even in the hardship there can be a lot of growth, because having friends who disagree with you on things enriches your life or can enrich your life, and having friends with people from different walks of life can bring new perspective into your own life that leads to like maturity in the expansion of your horizons. That's a really beautiful thing.
Okay, I have like 3 different thoughts based on that. I'm literally going to take a note, which is something that some of my clients might be familiar with, though I get too many ideas at once, and I'm like, 1 second.
So I'm going to like sit here like a client, like,
dun, dun,
yeah,
dun.
so you're typing, yeah, so.
Okay, you've completely made me lose the rest of these thoughts. What was it that you just said?
I was talking about the equilibrium and the beauty that as long as there's that equilibrium that challenge can bring, and like new perspectives can bring into your life from friends who are different than you, friends who disagree with you?
I'm losing something on that final point, but I know the first two things.
Tell me.
So one is that I'm glad you're talking about like the reciprocity in friendship and that there should be a mutual like giving and receiving. And one of the major pitfalls that autistic people are prone to fall into, from my understanding, coming at it as an autistic person who just has the one side of this experience, but it's in neurotypical friendships, it's more common to give something, whether it's time, energy, something tangible to somebody, and to wait for reciprocity to happen, to wait for there to be some receiving before they're giving again. And there's a little bit more of a built-in balance of giving and expecting to receive. And what tends to happen with autistic folks,
Really quick, giving what?
again, time, energy, something like an actual tangible gift, being the first person to reach out, giving something.
Yeah.
And for autistic folks, what's more common is that when we get invested in something, just like we might, spend hours or days researching something new that we're excited about learning about, we tend to really deeply give when we first enter a relationship. We're maybe the one initiating, or I found this thing and I thought of you,
Right.
or we're learning deeply about them and we're asking them all these questions because we are like now focused on this new thing, and we have that mono focus where we really like to pour ourselves into the one thing, and we go down the road and we get so far into the friendship and things have the feeling of closeness, and we realize, what has this person done? Am I getting used?
What have you done for me lately?
Am I getting used here? And a
Right.
lot of autistic people do get used in relationships and friendships because they are so willing to just like give without waiting to receive anything in return.
Could there also be scenarios where they're just so readily available and giving, and the person who's receiving all of that is like using them in the sense that they're just letting that happen? Like, oh wow, look at this
right.
person who's just showing up like over and over again.
Yeah. I don't always think it's like intentional and malicious.
Okay,
If that's
yeah.
what you're, I think it can be. We're
Sure.
certainly prone to that sort of relationship, but also I think sometimes it's just like, oh man, Sarah really loves just like coming over and helping me with things and loves making me cookies and loves taking me, and like maybe there's not the pause for consideration about what that person's doing.
Yeah.
I think it can also be an autistic trait to suddenly be on the receiving end of something like that and to go, I think the pattern in this relationship is that this person just likes doing these things and maybe I'm not supposed to, I don't even know what they would like or want. And either side of that you find yourself on, it is really important from the start of a relationship that you are intentional about there being a giving and receiving.
Is the headline here that there really always needs to be some give and take in a friendship?
I think so. I think that in the long run, there are periods in all of our relationships where one person is doing more giving and the other person doing more receiving. Like if I think on our marriage specifically, there are seasons of life where one of us has much less to give to the relationship. And sometimes that's going to happen. You might have a friend going through a really hard time, a friend going through a divorce, or a friend, starting school or whatever the thing is, and maybe they've got a little less to give and you're showing up. But that should be within the context of Price is holding my hand, yes?
If you ever go through a divorce, as a friend, I will be there for you.
Thanks, Price. I appreciate it.
Will you be there for me?
What did you do to get the divorce, Price?
Wait, what the fuck? What did you do? You fucking... Why is it my fucking fault?
I'll be there for you.
Anybody who's listened to any more than one episode is like, it would be Price's fault.
But yeah, so there can be this thing to be on guard about, which is that there should be reciprocity. And just because in the beginning we have this ability to monofocus and pour into something doesn't mean that we're not also, one, deserving of having somebody else pour back into us, and also that we're not ever going to hit a point where that's no longer fun, where that no longer feels good, and we now feel really hurt by this relationship.
So it's almost like we're encouraging folks who are looking for advice here to like be more measured, be more in touch with like what they're looking for, and to be kind of like thinking through the relationship objectively as they go.
I think there's that. And also, something we talked about that I thought was great input from you as we were first talking about this topic outside of or planning for the podcast is really defining friendship to each other. It's something that is missing in our like social script. It's there for dating. What are you looking for? What do you want out of a relationship? You should absolutely be asking that of potential friends. I'm really enjoying time with you. I kind of feel like a friendship's blossoming here. What are you looking for?
This is very much outside of the norm.
It's outside of the norm.
This is like you will be a little outside of the norm if you're like popping those questions. Maybe don't pop questions. If you're asking people questions like that, that is a little unusual. But I think it's actually like overlooked. It's underutilized in relationship and friendships. I mean,
autistic people in particular really benefit from clear boundaries and guidelines around something. We would really like all of the instructions before we get started. And I think it's something that like friendships really lack, that they suffer for. I think it is true. It would be uncommon to say, hey, I feel like I really enjoy spending time with you and there's a friendship developing here. What are you looking for in a friend? It's an uncommon thing to say, but I think friendships out in the wild, out in the world, suffer for not having that in it.
Because the problem is that if you need that sort of direction, you're not going to like get it, right? If you need like somebody to tell you, hey, we are friends, that's not normal. That's not typical. It is totally, in my opinion, totally fair and valid to ask.
Yeah.
Or to state.
Yeah.
And so if you are coming to like a new relationship with an understanding of what you're looking for and what you're wanting to give and what you're wanting to receive, and you've been like spending some time with somebody and enjoying that time, then you can, without making it fucking weird, like guys, come on, like don't be fucking weird. We all know you're fucking weird.
Okay.
This is actually, I'm kind of preaching to myself a little bit because I'm pretty well known for this, and I have leaned too hard into it in the past, and it has made people uncomfortable.
You do this all the time, so you being like, that's not normal is feeling a little bit weird, but
I'm projecting,
I hear you.
For sure.
It's because I feel like other people have found it weird that you've had that interaction with them. But I feel like the people who are friends with you are the people who are willing to have that conversation with you, apart from Chris.
I think I know something that is true going into that conversation, which is that in order to be friends with someone, I need like two things. I need like a single subject in common, like anything at all, one thing in common, and time. That is like all that I need to be friends with somebody. Yeah. And so for me, like being friends with somebody always just feels like a choice. Like I've chosen to be friends with you, and I want you to make the same decision, and then I can rest easy just knowing that we're friends. And that doesn't mean that like I will loan you thousands of dollars, after having just met you because we're such good friends. But that just
it's a matter of time.
Exactly. But I like to know that like we're in this category and like we're both going to like be building a friendship together, and like we've made that decision. I do not do well. I think I'm similar to you in this regard. I don't do well with like undefined friendships with other people where I'm just not clear if we're friendly or not. Especially like I'm really not talking about people at work. We talked about that last week. I just mean like other people that I'm spending time with. I want to know that they think of me as a friend, and I want them to know that I think of them as a friend.
My adult friendships have all been marked with after after we had a significant amount of time hanging out. I don't mean a lot of times over the matter of weeks, but I mean like we maybe spent a couple hours talking one time.
Yeah.
Or we really clicked over some subject. Maybe it wasn't even a long amount of time, but we were both like, oh my God, you too? I love that thing. I will follow up with a text, usually later that day or the next day, and say, I really enjoyed having that conversation with you. I'm so glad we met.
Oh, yeah. Classic. Easy. Cost you nothing.
Right. Costs me nothing. And the reciprocity that I get back from that feels so nice and affirming. Like I either get maybe it's more of a thumbs up, you too. And I'm like, okay, maybe they're not feeling the same thing that I am.
Right.
And that's great. I can still have meant what I said.
They're being polite, but they're not like jumping in with you at that point, right?
And I can receive that, which is like we had a great time talking about our shared interest, and they're full up on Friends or whatever it is. It doesn't have to do with me. It doesn't have to do with me. I think we often see things as that's about me somehow. People don't want to make new friends for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
But more often than not, what that's led to is, oh my gosh, I felt the same way. Mm-hmm. Oh, I didn't know how much I needed that conversation. Now we're friends. Yeah. That's friendship to me.
And to like the two fellas listening, like put on your big boy pants because I got some great news for you, okay? The fellas out there are desperate for this sort of affirmation from other friends. Yep. And there's always this like, for me being like straight, for lack of a better word, there's always this like thing hanging over you of like, is this gay? And just do away with like, let's all just move past that and just tell your friends that you care about them. Tell the people that you're getting to know that you're enjoying getting to know them, and give them the opportunity to say the same thing back to you, like to your point. And I think that opens, like, I've had nothing but positive experiences with exactly that.
Yeah. And I think it's maybe a step down from the whole, like, what are you looking for in a friend? If that's a lot to say or to bring to the table, just that acknowledgement of like, hey, here's this specific thing about how I've perceived our time together can be really good and can lead to affirmation.
I think at a certain point in the evolution of a friendship where things are going really well and y'all are on the same page, like asking a question like, how can I be a better friend to you? Unprompted. You're not sitting there thinking of all the ways that they could be a better friend to you. So you ask that, you're not being manipulative. You just ask that question.
Yeah.
And they're always going to say you're great. Like nobody's going to be like, well, if you could stop doing it, that would be fucking weird. But like just the fact that you're thinking about that, like articulate that and show that you're like being purposeful with the relationships that you're in. And that shows that you're like actually being considerate of what your friends need from you or could use from you, and you want to enrich their life, and that's usually a reflection of the fact that they are enriching your life.
Well, I think what humans tend to do when we're feeling uncertain about something is that we want to jump in and try to figure out how's the other person receiving this, what's going on, and I think you can almost always turn that on yourself and just offer that up. So instead of like, is this person going to meet my needs? Are we going to continue being friends? Are they in this? You step up with some vulnerability and say like, hey, I'd really like to be a better friend to you. Is there anything I can do?
To kind of like pinpoint what you're saying to a specific scenario that I think happens to a lot of people is should I text them or would they think that's weird? Text them.
Text them.
9 times out of 10, text them. If they think it's weird, then if you avoid texting them because you're afraid that they will think it's weird, and they would think it's weird, then you're concealing a part of them. And we talk about this a lot. You're concealing a part of them or a part of you from them that is who you are. And you're putting on a show to like please somebody by pretending to be someone that you're not. Text them.
If they do become friends with you, they're going to become friends with somebody that like you're not.
Yeah.
And that's going to continue to feel really uncomfortable.
And the good news here is what a blessing it is that we're not always each other's cup of tea. Mm-hmm. Because if we were everyone's cup of tea, we would be water. Right?
True.
Like lukewarm water is everyone's cup of tea. Everybody drinks, like will drink or has drank, like a lukewarm cup of tea or a cup of water. Sorry, just like room temperature water. let's have some flavor. Let's have some spice. Let's have some body to us, you know? Like, you're going to be somebody's cup of tea, and by merit of that, you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea.
Right. It is good and beneficial to you when people self-select.
And it's harder to do that if you are down a path of pretending to be someone that you're not. And then you reveal yourself at some point, because that will always happen. And they don't like that. Your friend no longer wants to be friends with who you are.
Yeah.
And you've deluded yourself into thinking that you've now lost a friend when they really weren't your friend. They were the character you were playing friend the entire time.
Right. Would you rather get the opportunity to exit something that's not for either of you, or like live in the shaky fantasy that everything's okay as long as I don't say anything and as long as I don't show up as myself? Like, yeah, it's going to suck if that person doesn't that you think is cool or think is fun or think you have a common interest with or whatever. It's going to suck if that person doesn't want to be friends with you. But if you've gotten to be direct and you've gotten to be honest and to be yourself, you never have to worry about living in a reality where the people around you are only like pretending to like who that person is.
Yeah.
Or who don't, who would not like you if they actually got to know you.
Yeah, if you're holding that stress, that is stress that you've chosen to hold. And I don't want you to hold that sort of stress. I don't want you to live like with that particular rain cloud hanging over your head. At the very least, I can say that the people I'm friends with like me.
Okay, I do want to bring one thing up. I've definitely heard from a lot of autistic clients that when they were in school, maybe middle or high school, they were very much themselves. And people explicitly pretended to be friends with them as a joke. And they didn't know until later.
That's cruel.
I've met a lot of autistic people with that story.
That's cruel.
And I think my encouragement out of that is that adults don't waste their time in the same way people who are forced into a classroom together every single day do.
You have to spend time with the people that you go to school with, and you're bored out of your fucking mind, right?
And you have other people who are in on it. Like, that is a very specific dynamic that I think allows kids to be very cruel to one another.
I've seen it happen. I've seen that happen to people, like autistic kids that I was like in high school with or doing high school activities with, like seeing them follow a friend group around who were like just constantly shitting on them.
Yeah.
And they didn't realize it. One of my proudest moments when I was 15, I actually stood up for a kid who was getting bullied, but in that nice way, where they were all laughing and he was laughing and he didn't realize that everyone was laughing at him. And I called the whole group out on it, and they were very cool, and I was very brave for standing up for this autistic kid. And I still am proud of that. That was cool of
That
me.
is nice.
How great am I?
Wow.
This is my fucking podcast, y'all. we talk about our strengths here. But it happens so often. But I think you're right.
But that is a real and specific trauma that I do think plenty of autistic folks go through who were very much themselves, who I was being myself,
Sure.
or I was trying to fit in, or whatever the story is. And that's a horrific thing to have happen. I'm so sad that happened for you.
Yeah.
And also, when you have the option as an adult to just be friends with people, you have control over where you go, the odds of that happening, I feel plummet, because adults choose to spend their time where they want to.
Something that a lot of autistic people that I know now have in common is that they have special interests. And we call them special interests. Y'all, I love autistic people, but y'all gonna have to buckle in for a second. Special interest is not a good term for what I see that actually be in people's life. Obsessed, hinge my identity on, totally enthused. My whole life, my whole thing is about this topic, and we call it a special interest. I like Lord of the Rings. That's a special interest. It ain't like that though. It's not. You know
if
what
everyone would like to write in and say if you think Price's interest in Lord of the Rings happens to meet special interest level, I sure would like validation for that. I don't think there's been a single episode this year where you haven't talked about your casual interest.
Because I am trying to be more authentically me, and I'm also spending a lot more time with autistic people, and y'all like crazy about the stuff you're crazy about, and so I'm trying to step up my game and be me a little bit more. Y'all are kind of inspiring me to be me a little bit.
Not that this is part of this specific conversation. I'm not entirely sure why you're bringing up the special interest thing in this episode. I guess I do have a point to make about it. But one thing I will say about that is I know a lot of autistic folks also experience imposter syndrome around having autism or being autistic because they don't have a special interest like that.
You don't.
I definitely thought I wasn't autistic because
Right.
I didn't have a special interest.
The only reason I bring it up is because it is going to be a huge part of your friendship journey, right? As you find friends, and if you have a special interest, I have a few thoughts on that, and I'm sure you have way more thoughts on how you can leverage that and some things you should be aware of when you're you're super hype on like a specific topic, and you're also like trying to make friends. Mm-hmm. What do you got for us?
Oh, I was just going to say out of the special interest topic is go places where people are engaging in your special interest. Mm-hmm. Go places where, go to a con and see, you can look up like people who are tagging that con ahead of time. See if you can connect with them online so you can make a plan to meet up with them there in a safe way. Pretty please, I care about you all. Or you can go...
God, if you're looking for friends online, like it's a great place to find people based on a specific interest, right? If you're not on a subreddit, if you're not in a Discord server based off of your special interest, go mm-hmm. there. Those are people who are gathering to talk about the thing that you want to talk about, my friend. Go there.
And you'll find somebody who has, like, I know that there can be a lot of, I was going to say Discord in the community, which I'm remembering is that's where that comes from. Anyway, there's always tension in the community over certain topics, but if you go to those places, you're going to find the people who are exactly on your team about your thing.
The other thing I would encourage you is that if that's not the paradigm of your friendships, which I think it's good to make friends with people who aren't necessarily interested in all of the same things that you are, be sure to view that special interest as something that you want to share with someone mm-hmm. and delight in the opportunities you have to share with them. Mm-hmm. Don't expect everyone to have the same level of enthusiasm for this thing that you find so dear as you do. But when you do watch an episode of the show that you love with your friend, y'all are going to watch all 15 years of One Piece together. That's not going to happen in one night. Mm-hmm. Delight in bringing somebody into this thing that means so much to you, but give them the opportunity to grow into it themselves rather than expecting someone to love the thing that you love immediately.
That leads me to two places. The first is... I think that because special interests can be so long-lasting, they can be something, often there's an issue with being an autistic adult who has a special interest that's viewed as childish because you've had it since you were a child. You've continued to love that thing for a very long time. But the great news is about special interests is that they are developed over time.
Yeah.
It's about your exposure to something. And as much as you love this one thing and would maybe love to be connected to people who also love that thing, great, go forth, find those people. They exist. Also, your friends have new special interest areas waiting to happen. Getting to delight in the things that the people around me delight in has been one of the most fulfilling parts of my life. I'm somebody, and I wear this as part of an identity. They're I get excited about people who are excited about something. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be something I know about or something I have cared about in the past, but I love somebody with some enthusiasm for
That's
something.
One of the reasons we work so well, because I get so fucking hyped on the things that I'm hyped about.
And I'm yes, tell me more about Lord of the Rings, Bryce. And
Do I have autism? Is this a live diagnosis?
Live on the podcast. Yeah, there's potentially a new thing on the front that you could really love and care about that's waiting in a new person you could be friends with. So giving yourself, if you're able, the room to say, I'd really like to be curious about what this person's into and hear them out on why they're interested in it. The more questions you ask somebody about the thing that they love, and the more they get to open up about that, loving something else becomes natural. I have loved so many things outside of my own window of experience because I allowed myself to stay curious. It was like that thing plus time.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Got us there. Yeah.
A common interest plus time spent equals friendship. And think about how much your interest, and now I'm talking to everybody, not just like special interest folks, but like think about how much the things you are interested in mean to you and how excited you are to share them, and realize that the people you are friends with are also full human beings.
Yes. Right. Remember that they are full human beings who have gotten to their place of perspective through a full human experience, which, sorry.
Yeah, so if you like turn a blind eye to their interests, you're robbing yourself of the opportunity to find out a whole other human being's like way of interacting with the world. Yeah. And even if, Doctor Who isn't your cup of tea, like it would be fascinating to learn why that's so important to somebody.
The why behind it, I think, is a big deal.
Yeah.
So that leads me to my next pitfall that autistic people, that I see happen a lot, and it disrupts friendships. Okay. This is potentially where people will think I'm calling them out, and there are so many people right now who could think this because I hear it all the time.
Well, that should be comforting if you have clients listening, like you're not alone in whatever you're about to share.
Oh my gosh, this is so shared. I think I've had friendships that I haven't fostered or nurtured or moved forward with because of the same thing.
Okay.
It's more common in autistic folks for us to really strongly, it's what they call like the black and white thinking thing, which I don't always think is a good perspective because we can have nuanced views of things, but is to feel very, very strongly about our values, to be usually well researched in them, to have a lot, like knowledge that backs that up, and to feel very passionately about that, and to be kicking off a new friendship or to be months into a blossoming friendship and to find a values conflict and to feel like that decimates the rest of the friendship.
Yeah.
You are allowed to have strong values, and I think that's a beautiful part of autistic folks. I think that we like move the world forward in terms of sometimes our very strong values for things and our ability to like take some of the personal out of it. So you go, this just matters.
Right.
And we should be uncomfortable to make this thing happen. It
just objectively matters.
Yeah. Right. It might be uncomfortable for me to have to change my perspective around this, or to have to do something to care about the environment, or to have to do something to really invest in this thing. But like, it matters to me so much that that's important. I'm willing to set the personal aside. Mm-hmm. But we can do that for other people and to other people. And I've seen a lot of autistic folks miss out on friendships, lose friendships because they had such a strong value around something, and when that disagreement happened, they couldn't see any way forward. And they feel so personally hurt over it. It's like, you don't get me at all because of how much I really deeply care about this thing. And if you can't see it, I just like can't see a way forward.
I'm going to ask you a challenging question.
Okay.
I want specifics, but not from, you're dealing with this actively with several clients, right? Can you make up a net new example to kind of illustrate what you're talking about without kind of like disclosing a specific client's issues?
Yeah. Okay. Let's use the environment because I said that. If you're somebody who really, really cares about like the environment, you've made it your whole thing. You're like, it's part of your special interest. Or you, and maybe there's a specific aspect of it like recycling. And then you make a friend and you realize that that person doesn't recycle. And also when you ask them questions about it, specifically the other pitfall that happens within this is leading questions. Well, so you wouldn't if you had access to a recycling can, you wouldn't take the extra minute to rinse out a bottle. You think it's fine for people to put it in the other thing? You think it would be fine to leave it there? Like trying to drag somebody to a point. But even without that, even without trying to do that to somebody, there's just this is my whole thing. I think that this is saving lives for me to care so much about the environment and recycling.
So you think that just because Boromir had a redemption arc, he's the best character in the Fellowship? Just because? Okay, well, I don't think we can be friends then, my guy,
It might be... I've seen a lot of folks struggling with COVID recently and about like the disability impact on that. I've seen a lot of... I think it's really common to struggle with like racism or sexism or one of those it's a big topic. Like these are all things that a lot of people are talking about. But to take that on so fully and to care so deeply about it, which again, fair. And I think it's lovely that we can feel so strongly and be so willing to set aside. It's hard to do like disability advocacy work or to really challenge people on their like built-in bias and racism. Like beautiful work, keep showing up that way. I love that about you. You and I have disagreed on so many things over the course of our relationship and meaningful things to one of us. But knowing you and getting to hear the full why of why you came to that place, rather than just being like, I care about this deeply and you don't, so you don't see me, but instead taking that as an opportunity to try to see you.
It is not better to be right and alone.
Oh God, that's so true.
You can be right and alone all day long.
It is not better to be right and alone.
I have immediate family members that I feel that way about, that they're right, but they're alone.
Yeah.
You got it. The real world is not internet. I think some of our autistic friends are chronically online.
And I think there's a lot right now that's extremely polarized. And we've seen damage from it.
Yep.
Like it's fair that if you've grown up in this, you've like seen real damage being done for people ignoring some of these big issue topics.
But please remember that what you need to build a friendship is one thing in common and time spent. And if somebody disagrees with you, like you're saying, then what a beautiful opportunity to learn more about why.
Yeah.
Because maybe that perspective will will build your resolution, your beliefs, or maybe you'll be introduced to something factual that might change your beliefs.
Yeah.
Either one of those is a good outcome. And then maybe you will build enough empathy with someone where they'll be willing to hear your side and end up seeing you. You do yourself a disservice and you do them a disservice to just cut it off at the pass because right out the gate, you won't recycle. You wouldn't recycle. So, yeah, I mean, I don't recycle because the planet's dying and I'd just rather get that over with, if I'm honest.
I think there are a lot of people who aren't interested in listening to your perspective anymore.
Bye. What are you trying to say exactly? Like, you think that like me recycling a beer bottle is gonna do anything for anybody? Planet's fucking dying. Go yell at a billionaire about it. Don't yell at me. Jesus Christ.
I'm really struck by the like it's. What did you say?
Better to be, or you can be right and alone.
Yeah, it's not better to be right than than to not be alone.
You really botched that.
I botched it. Yeah. Anyway, I think that that's really striking. I think that I, especially maybe in middle and high school, had more friendships that I didn't pursue or see through because I felt like our values were too different and it wouldn't play out. And some of those friendships, thankfully, closer to this point in my life, I've actually rekindled. And we like really enjoyed knowing one another. Another thing that can be true, because we're like defining friendship as we're going, I think there are plenty of healthy and successful friendships where you enjoy a common interest and something else is off limits. I think
Yeah.
that's allowed.
Yeah, we've just agreed to not talk about this.
Yep. I think that can feel very inauthentic, especially for autistic folks. Like if I'm not defending this thing that I care about, am I even being my real self? Enjoy the thing you have in common. If you love going on like nature walks together, go do that and talk about anything other than the fact that the two of you don't get along on this topic.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to join in activities together where you disagree.
I'll speak about some thoughts I have on this just for a quick aside, which is that I am, we live where we live in a rural community, very conservative, huge Trump support out here. Just to paint the picture, like that's where we live. We live in like Trump country, for real. And then I frequently go to Reddit, and a lot of the stuff I say on Reddit is like, why would somebody ever vote Republican? That death cult, Trump is evil. Like, I don't even understand how you could like go there, And like, I agree, I'm more on that side of things. Like, that's more aligned to my values. But what I am blown away by is just this complete. We're quick to blame like a conservative thinker for letting their brain be poisoned by Fox News and that they're just in the echo chamber of Fox News, but you're also in your own echo chamber.
Oh, sure.
Right? Like, we have neighbors who are across the street who are absolutely like huge Trump fans, and they're really, really fucking nice neighbors. They're not evil people. Like, if I was to read Reddit, if I let Reddit tell me who those people were, I would think that they're evil, but you go and meet them and they're actually good people. I think perhaps misinformed. But this conversation breaks down when we're all just like pointing the finger. Yeah. I think that the counterpoint to that, go to the internet to find people who are interested in the same thing as you, your common interest. The downside to that is that you have found people who are perfectly aligned to your way of thinking.
Right. Also go to your like local whatever to find people who differ in some of their views, but also are pretty great people to be around.
The millennials were the loneliest generation on record until Gen Z came. Y'all are lonelier because of this, because relationships online, while I think that they can be very fulfilling, are not enough. Yeah. You need FaceTime with people, not the app.
Well,
actual FaceTime.
That comes back to stuff we've talked about last season about like co-regulating with other people. You can feel really affirmed by somebody sharing your opinion online, but it actually takes being around somebody, or at least there's some aspect of one-on-one on a computer screen being able to co-regulate with somebody. But in general, you've got to be with a whole person to be able to have your nervous system and their nervous system help one another calm down and feel at peace and feel heard and connected and seen.
I think that we've laid out some helpful things for folks to think about when going out and making friends. I think we didn't really touch on the absolute hardest part of this, which is the actually going out and meeting people part. That's fucking hard.
It's hard.
It's hard for everybody. I think that I would like to talk about that in future episodes.
Okay.
And perhaps that's the starting point to this, right? Is to go out and meet people. But I think especially if you're autistic and you're looking to make friends, you have some homework, which is to start evaluating what the friendships that you do have or you have had. What did you like about them? What did they do for you? What are you looking for in friendships? And what will you be bringing to the table? And how will you be like purposefully like driving that relationship so that you have like meaningful friendships in your life? And we'll be back to you in the future on some like more practical tips of how to actually like apply some of what we're talking about and actually get out there and meet folks.
And if you have had the like complete trauma of having people like pretend to be friends with you and not really,
just give me their home address.
Bryce is gonna come by and make some friends. I think that if that's happened to you, if you have had a real friendship that really did fall apart over like a difference in values that ended up like crumbling the foundation of your, like some of these are based on really real things that have happened to people. And I hope that you can be like so tender with yourself, and we feel so tenderly toward you. And also like those horrible experiences aren't indicative that like that's all there is out there. I think that it takes exposure to a lot of people to make good friendships, and that's tough. Again, that's challenging. The hardest part is going out there and meeting people. But I think that people who have a lot of friends and who seem good at friendship regularly expose themselves to, okay, I need to get away from saying expose themselves to other people. If you were listening last episode, again, sorry. But they regularly get out there and get FaceTime with other people.
Yeah.
They regularly get out there and they're authentic and they are looking for a connection. They're open to a disagreement. They're like ready and willing to receive those things. And that's why you see them with a lot of friends. It's not that every single interaction of theirs goes well. It's that they're giving themselves way more opportunity for one of those to go well.
Well, I think we can wrap up there. Do you have any other thoughts?
No, I think that's it.
Well, Ash, as always, thank you so much for your time.
Bryce, thank you for your time.
And we will see you next time on I Married Your Therapist. Man, I said some wise-ass shit this episode.
I feel so sad that I butchered it. I didn't get to say it again.
You Can Be Right and Alone was a good one. If you're everyone's cup of tea, you'll be a glass of water. That was good. I came up with that shit on the fly. Yeah, that was some bangers.
Yeah, something about Boromir.
Yeah, I feel really strongly about that.
Yeah.
Boromir is not the strongest character in the Fellowship. Don't at me in the comments.
Okay, we gotta get out of here.
All right.